Hello and welcome to Barbatus Catholic Podcast, the show where two Mexican dads talk about faith, life, and culture. We are your hosts,
Gustavo
and Walter, and today we are going to chat with Deacon Andy Lambros about stewardship. But first, a word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by discountcatholicstore.com. They are your new go-to online shopping source for all traditional Catholic products. They have Catholic statues for indoor and outdoor use, statues from 8 inches to 24, 36, 48, and 72 inches tall. DiscountCatholicStore.com is your source for traditional Catholic statues. You can get a 15% discount on your first order with free shipping using the discount code Barbatus, that is BARBATUS. Visit DiscountCatholicStore.com today and use discount code Barbatus at checkout to get 15% off on your first order. And now, to the show. Deacon Andy Lambros, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
We have known you for a number of years because all three of us are parishioners from St. Joan of Arc. But for those that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your family, all of that fun stuff?
Yeah, sure. I'm a rarity these days in Arizona. I'm a native. I was born and raised here in Phoenix, Arizona. So this is not my destination or a destination. This is my home.
Yeah.
So I lived here most of my life. I didn't live here when I was in the Navy, but other than that, I've been living here, and I really like it. It's home for me. So I'm married 38 years to my wonderful wife Pam. I have 5 kids. All of them are married, and I have 10, I think that's right, grandchildren and 2 on the way. So
wow,
congrats.
Soon, yeah, by the middle of summer, I'll have 12 grandkids.
Beautiful.
So it's crazy.
Praise be to God.
Yeah, thank you. So, I, out of high school, I college really wasn't meant for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I joined the Navy. And so I spent 4 years in the Navy as a Navy corpsman, working in hospitals, and actually worked in a nursery for about 1.5 years with little babies and L&D. And yeah, so the big burly guy would come in and help mom breastfeed. And believe it or not, I actually did that too a lot. And I was actually pretty good at it, but a lot of times they're like, no, you need to leave. So, but learned a lot
it's
about.
It's hard for me to picture you as an L&D.
There's a lot. It's hard for a lot of people. So, but it was a great experience. And when I got out, we moved back. I got married while I was in the Navy, and then we moved back here, raised a family. And shortly after we moved back and got out, I was hired at Tempe Fire Department, and so I worked there for about 25 years. I worked for the city of Scottsdale, or rural metro, for about 2.5 years. And so, so 28 years of firefighting experience. And so it was towards the end of my retirement, about 10 years out. I knew I was going to retire, and fairly young, and just thought, what does the Lord have in store for me? And I knew that I wanted to do something different other than the fire department. I had seen a lot and done a lot, and it was time for me to go to do something else. And so that was exciting, but didn't really know what. And so I kind of discerned that for a long time, 7-8 years. I was just, praying and wondering, and I kind of did a lot of studies and a lot of different businesses, what I could start, doing different things like that, doing the homework, but nothing really stood out. And people, like, oh, what are you going to be, a deacon or something, and and it's like, if you're a middle-aged guy and you go to church, you're deacon material apparently to some people. So
check the box.
Yeah, it's similar to seminarians. If you're single and you go to church, you should be a priest. So there was a lot of that. It's like, well, I don't know. I couldn't see myself, and so I just started discerning it, and I thought, in my prayer, I just thought, I don't have a reason not to. I have the support, I have the the means to do so. So I thought, well, I'll start there. I'll just,
So were all your kids pretty much out of the house by
pretty
then?
much. I had one still unmarried, and but she was, junior college or
Okay.
sophomore in college.
So she was pretty independent at that point.
At that point, she might have been a little bit younger when I first started discerning and formation, but yeah, I really didn't have a reason not to discern it, and so we always asked our kids to discern the priesthood, at least consider it. And so the tables were kind of turned on me when
was it Pam that was like,
pretty much. Yeah. She's like, we asked this of our kids, maybe you should think about that. And so I prayed about that and she was right,
But also because she has to be on board with your decision. Because
very on board. And I wanted her to be, I wanted this to be something that we did together. And that was really tough for us because she could see that I was being called. I couldn't see it, but she could kind of see it, but she didn't see herself being called. That's a whole nother podcast, but
for sure.
But at the same time, we had many, many discussions about that and that we needed to be in this together. Not that she would be, some deaconess or some female version of a deacon. No, not at all. But we needed to be unified in the decisions that we made moving forward. And I really needed her support, and she needed to see that it was, it was a call for our marriage and
Correct.
For both of us, rather than just me doing my thing, so to speak. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think there are some deacons in the relationship where that works, but for us, and it just wasn't going to work unless we kind of did this together. And so a lot of the decisions were based on, I need her input, and she also came to the realization that she needs to discern this as well, along with me.
To be the wife of a deacon, basically.
Exactly. And there was a lot of fruit that was born from just submitting to that. And like I said, you could interview her and she would tell you a great
That's
story.
Really not a bad idea. When I think that the times that diaconate has flown in the forefront of my mind, I just had one kid, and then I started having more kids. I'm like, well, this is not the right time to do that.
Sure.
But when I was looking into it, I think it was Deacon Peter who told Deanna and I that if a man is married and then gets ordained a deacon, he cannot remarry. And Deanna was like, you should look into that.
A little security.
So that was like the selling point of the diaconate for my wife, at least. But
are you a cradle Catholic, Andy?
Yes. Yeah.
Deacon, I'm sorry, I keep doing that.
Well, that's the thing.
We've known each other for so long. We met you
as Andy, so now it's like
that's okay.
Deacon
Andy. And Andy is one of those names that it's really hard to break that habit.
Yeah.
And I say it every Sunday at Mass when I see you, and I'm like,
I think more people have the people that say just don't say deacon have a bigger problem than I have with it. So it's not a problem.
Right.
So are you a cradle Catholic?
Yeah. Born and raised kind of in Maryville. And so went to St. Vincent de Paul. Still love that parish. Pam and I were married there. And but it just had such fond memories of big families. Just, we lived 2 blocks away. You could walk to Mass. And as a kid, it was an extension of my
Your
family,
neighborhood.
Neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I'd get on my bike. Back then, you'd get on your bike and leave at 8 a.m. and come back for dinner.
Yeah.
It's like it was a babysitter. It was a place of worship. It was where you got your sacraments, pick up basketball, got married, and we just had we were very involved there as a family, and so such fond memories of the Catholic family life. We were, our family was dysfunctional like any family, but I never knew it because I was, the 7th of 8 boys. And so, I was just the little kid but yeah, just fond memories of growing up a Catholic in a big family, Catholic family in a great parish.
So where are you at in the birth order?
7th of 8. So I'm not the
Seventh of
baby. I'm the forgotten one. I'm the one that's usually curled up in a corner in the fetal position, sucking my thumb. So
That's funny. Let's feel bad for my fourth, because sometimes it's like, we'll get to you when we get to you. Sorry, child.
yeah, they say that, the pictures, well, back when I was a kid, but they had to take all these pictures of the firstborn and the secondborn. And by the time they got to me, it was like,
Yeah.
I don't think there was any pictures.
We ran out of film. Sorry.
Yeah. Family portraits were the only picture, the only portrait I got.
You get one per year.
Don't change a lot, because we're going to use this for a while.
Exactly.
That's really funny. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, do you think that your previous experience in the Navy and as a firefighter influenced you to be a deacon? Because if you think about it, it's a position of service, right?
Yeah, they kind of in formation we were taught that it's the Sacrament of Service, it's the diaconate, and so I think that's very true from the original deacons in Acts 6 all the way up to the permanent deacons today. Service is a big deal, and so and when I was in the Navy, I was a corpsman. I was in hospitals and clinics and in ERs, worked there. And then when I got out, being in the fire department, I always worked for something kind of bigger than myself, United States, the military, and then a city fire department. And so it's a natural progression for me to kind of do something bigger than myself, so work for the Lord. So, and part of my experiences working with people, and you're in lots of different situations. You kind of show up on many times on people's worst day. And so you have to kind of manage that and deal with that. So all that training and all that experience kind of helped me in my formation to kind of understand how to be in situations where it may not be a physical situation or physical hurts or ailments or anything like that, but it might be spiritual. And so not that I'm going to come in and save the day or anything, but just to be able to be present in the same way and to administer and kind of make things better. I mean, that was kind of what we did with the fire department. When you were called, your job was to make things better, whether it's picking up somebody that fell out of bed, something as simple as that, or or just, trying to rescue somebody in a fire. So it could be anything and all the above. And I feel like there is a correlation with the diaconate. It's just, when Pope Francis came out and said, the church is kind of like a field hospital, I could totally relate to that. And we are. And so in that aspect, it's a really a comfortable place to be. And some of the skills that I've learned and used over the years have come in handy, whether it's holding somebody's hand, letting them tell you the story, or administering the sacraments, so it could be something very simple, but something very powerful at the same time.
Well, it's about being, like you said, something greater than yourself. And I think that's something that we're missing right now in our culture. Yeah.
There's, I think it's a kind of a control thing. It's like, I'll tell you a quick little story. When I first retired, I felt like I wasn't being plunged into the diaconate formation. I hadn't really made too many decisions towards that. So I decided I'll just get hired with the airlines and throw bags and actually, fly free whenever I wanted. And so I did that for about 6 months, but towards the end of the 6 months, it was just really, I noticed that I was going to work so that I could do something for myself. I was going to work to fly free for me and for my wife and my family. And you start doing that. It's a very selfish way of doing it. I wasn't like providing for my family anymore. I wasn't like, making a home. Yeah, everything was already set, but I was literally going to work so that I could get the advantage of it. And so it kind of started closing in on me a bit. And I felt like I got to get out of this, because I've never had that before. My whole working life has been, for the most part, been in service and doing something bigger than what I, can do. And so,
or outside of you, right?
Yeah. It's like, so it was all basically neat and tidy for just me, but the military, the fire department, and working for the Lord in the church, it's so much bigger, than just me. And I kind of like that. I don't need to be, the head honcho of everything, so it is bigger than me, and it just feels right.
So you did that for 6 months, and then how did you end up as, I forget your exact title at St. Joan of Arc. Is it
Coordinator of Stewardship?
Coordinator of Stewardship. How do you end up with that position?
So it was one fateful day where I wasn't at my best at home, and I was just kind of struggling with, where the Lord wants me. Why am I working at this airline? I knew I was probably going to quit soon. And so she said, you need spiritual direction. And when your wife tells you need spiritual direction, just so you guys know, you need to go.
right
away. So I made an appointment. We just moved into the area about 6 months before. So I knew Father Klein was at St. Joan of Arc, and he's an old friend of mine. So I made an appointment with him just to go. So I went to spiritual direction with him and just kind of dumped, and it was very healthy. It was very good. But at the end, I just said, hey, I'm going to quit this airline thing. I need to work. I want to work for the church, and I'll clean toilets. I'll do whatever. And I know he was, he's been a priest for a while. He's kind of well known in the diocese. And I just said, if you know of any, parish that's looking for, some maintenance part-time or what have you, just let me know. And he's like, okay, we just decided here that they were going to hire somebody full-time. And I said, okay, I'll start tomorrow.
Wow.
And he's like, well, we can't do that. We have to post it. We have to interview you. We have to do it all, I'm like, okay, all right.
Take it.
I'm right here.
So 2 or 3 weeks later, I mean, they had to do all the legal stuff and post it. And I don't think anybody even applied for that at the time, but he would know better. But yeah, I went in and interviewed, and he hired me. So
great.
So
that's amazing.
Started my formation right after that at St. Joan of Arc. So.
Wait, so you started the formation for the diaconate after that?
Yeah, I applied and did all that. I was still wondering, but I owed it to the Lord to apply. And so about that time is when I kind of was starting formation classes for the diaconate.
Well, praise be to God. We're happy to have you at St. Joan of Arc.
Yeah, I'm happy to be there. It's been a great experience.
So when I think about stewardship, I think about, being an administrator, but is there more to it than just like administer things, or what does it entail to be a steward?
You mean the job,
or no,
or just stewardship in general?
In stewardship in general.
Yeah. So like stewardship in general is I always tell people it's not something you do. It's someone who you are. And so, I mean, the basic definition is just being a good steward with God's gifts. And, as Catholics, we believe that everything is God's gifts. So we are really stewards of everything that we have. And we have to be responsible with everything that we have. And so, understanding that is a journey sometimes. And the old adage, or the old, the 3 T's, they say: the time, talent, and treasure.
Right.
It's kind of like the old-fashioned way of looking at it. It's still very appropriate to say that. It's an easy way to understand it, but it's not really what stewardship actually is. I always look at time, talent, and treasure as like, okay, it's your way of paying back, being happy or something. And it's not necessarily that. It's more, stewardship should be more of being a disciple and becoming a disciple. I know the Diocese of Wichita came out with the document for their diocese, and I really like it. And they talk about the 4 pillars, not the 3 T's. They like the 4 pillars, and it's basically trying to get the whole person in it. And it starts with prayer, and then how we have to go to prayer with stewardship, and knowing and building your relationship with the Lord, so that you can be a better steward. And then it talks about formation. So prayer and formation, knowing and learning about what the Lord wants us to be and how to be a good steward. And then hospitality. How do we respond to that knowledge? And then the last one is, I forgot it. I have it written down somewhere. And service. So the natural response to that relationship with the Lord, and knowing what He wants from us as His disciple, leads us to service. So prayer, formation, hospitality, and service really encapsulates, and it doesn't really have anything to do with money. And you tell people, I tell people all the time in the coordinator of stewardship, "Oh, you're the money guy." I'm like, no, actually, it's not. It has nothing really to do with money. It's so trying to break those old thoughts and habits of people thinking that it's just about money, and it's not.
It's more than that. It's their first. It all starts with the relationship that you have with our Lord.
Exactly.
And formation, can you expand on that? Is it like learning more about the faith kind of thing?
Yeah, and learning more about what stewardship really means. I know Father Keneally is in one of his homilies. He kind of quoted somebody as saying, "The Lord gives us everything. He allows us to keep 90% of it." So really, it's all His, but we get to keep 90% of it. And it's kind of, that formation is kind of changing the paradigm a bit and looking at it differently, that, wow, we get to keep 90%. And so some people have a problem with giving 10%, and it's not really a 10% thing. That's just the tried and true, let's throw something out there.
Right.
It's really, so that formation is understanding your call to stewardship, and what does that mean through prayer, and understanding what that means, and learning and growing with the Lord, so that you know how to respond through hospitality and service.
So the first time I heard about the concept of stewardship or steward, and the geek in me is going to come out right now, right? Because it was with Lord of the Rings and the Steward of Gondor, which the guy, if you're not familiar with the story, he's the guy that they left when there was no king. So, and this person had none of those attributes, because he thought himself a king. He was a steward of Gondor. In the movie itself, it's about applying all of those attributes, right? Service, hospitality to the people of your kingdom. They don't get into prayer there, but I mean, it's about leading your people by example. And this guy was a horrible person, right?
He's like the guy that buried the talent.
Exactly.
That was given by the
and he thinks he deserves everything. So he's always being waited on and throws banquets for himself, even though he's the only one there and the only one eating. There's a war raging outside, and he's like, "You guys go fight. I'm doing my job of sitting here." So when I first heard that, and then I was like part of a group that you put together of like, we read Forming Intentional Disciples, remember?
Yep.
And that was completely the opposite of what I had in my mind as an introductory to the word stewardship or steward. The fact that it's about, like you said, being outside of yourself and receiving others. And I was really taken by that, because as Catholics, we're supposed to have all those attributes to be able to welcome people into the church and make them feel comfortable, and make them feel, if somebody's coming in for the first time in a while, it's about welcoming and being inviting, not being like, okay, what can you do for us, essentially.
And it's what we can do for them. And just to make a point, steward there can be bad stewards.
Yeah, that guy was a bad steward.
There can be bad stewards, and the Lord wants us to be good stewards of His gifts. And so, and that's where kind of, in a lot of ways, you can take this to, our children are not our own.
Right.
They're gifts. And so I always liken things to the family life. That's really what I know. Not very good at it, but that's what I know.
Come on.
But it's like, we have finances, finances, how you run your home, all that. You're being good stewards of that particular area. So and in a way, you have to make sacrifices in order to be a good steward. It always takes sacrifice, finances. You got to give up things, and so there is a real connection to the sacrificial end of it. But we all know through sacrifice we grow, and we build, and we learn, and so that's part of that formation as well.
In the fact that God cannot be outdone in generosity. I think sometimes, like, at least at the beginning for me, it was like this kind of fear that it was kind of like a zero-sum game, that if I give it away, I'm not going to get it back.
Yeah.
But it's quite the opposite.
Yeah. And I can testify to that. There was a time when my wife and I went to have dinner, and we were celebrating the fact that we didn't have to pay any more school tuition, Catholic school tuition. And so
that's a good thing to celebrate, yes, by the way.
Yeah. So 5 kids through grade school and high school tuition. So when the final, and we sat there in amazement, because we just started recalling all these things, all the struggles we had, and the second, third job we had to get to kind of get them through. But we always just said, Lord, if you want these kids there, you're going to have to find a way, and we will do our part, and we will tithe, we will do everything you ask of us, and we trust and we pray, and have faith that you're gonna make this happen. Now, I can't tell you, money just didn't show up in the in our checking account to handle it. It wasn't like that miraculous, but it was just this slow way, and we don't know how it happened. I'm on a fireman's salary, which isn't that much. Pam always worked at the high school and the grade school and at the parish. Wasn't a whole lot of money, flowing to be able to pay that kind of tuition, but we just worked hard, and the kids were on every scholarship and work study and all that. And, on paper, it didn't work. On paper, but at the time we didn't know it. We just kind of just put our head down and worked and just struggled to get through it. We made sacrifices, vacations, and doing different things, but I think the Lord blesses every sacrifice, and we learned so much through all those sacrifices and tough times,
and the lessons that you're giving your kids too in the middle of this.
Yeah, hopefully, hopefully that the struggle, there is the redemption in the struggle in some way, shape, or form.
Well, it sounds like all 5 of them are still practicing the faith, married in the church, and almost a dozen grandchildren later. That seems like a lot of good fruit to me. Yeah,
I have one that's struggling with the faith, but yeah, they're all doing well.
Good.
They all have their own struggles, but
we've
been very blessed with there's such grace in the struggle, and so it's hard to see it at the time,
for sure.
And like I said, but looking back, and the same with the diaconate, it's like at one point goes back to the diaconate, but we would take every year. We'd have to write a handwritten letter to the bishop saying, I want to continue this if you'll allow it. And so every year we would have pretty much a 2 or 3 hour talk with Pam and I, and at one point I'm like, what, I'm not smart enough. I'm not spiritual enough. I'm not holy enough. And I don't even know if they need me or a guy like me. And she very wisely said, just look back at what you've done over the years. You've had a pretty interesting life. And I'm like, so we kind of just backtracked. So in a lot of ways, just looking back, you can kind of see how the Lord works. And the same with the tuition and just trusting in the Lord with finances and stuff. It's like, and sometimes you can't see it at the time, like I said, but when you have the opportunity to stop and look back, you can really see the Lord working in your life. And I was like, okay, I think the Lord wants something or someone like me. So, but it wasn't until then where I really didn't buy it. So, so the Lord, blessed us in that way to be able to have the eyes to see that, there's a lot that I can give and admit, Pam and I both. Just trusting in the Lord and put your head down and grind. Like I always tell my kids, put your head down and grind.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all part of the body, right? So we're not all going to be intellectuals. We're not all going to be mystics. We are all going to be, and that I think that the part of like the diversity of, just look at the community of saints, and they all have all these different personalities, and that's like one of the things that was like super awe-inspiring for me when I had my reversion. Is like, you have someone who was like Ignatius of Loyola that was very kind of melancholic and all these crazy things, and then you have a Saint Francis of Assisi that is throwing himself in the thorn bushes because he doesn't want to sin. And like, very different personalities, both of them saints. You can learn from everybody. So I get that sometimes it's like, well, it's kind of like a cliche saying that is like, God doesn't choose the able, he enables the chosen kind of situation. So we're very grateful for your diaconate. And I was just thinking about, now that you say all of your grandchildren, have you had a chance to baptize any of them?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. Possibility of 3 in the coming months. So
Sweet.
You have to put in like dibs on that one. Like, guys, I have a pitcher of water right here.
We just we leave it up to the parents. So so it's up to them. But yeah, it'll be a special moment to be able to do that baptism, the first one. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome. What's your favorite part so far? Oh,
what's that?
What's your favorite part of being a deacon so far?
That's a hard question to answer. Mostly just because there's, I've only been a little over a year. I've been ordained a little over a year, so everything's kind of. I'm not trying to dodge the question, but everything's kind of new, and I'm doing a lot of things for the first time, and so a lot of it is just nervous understanding of, hope I do this right. I remember that my first baptism. I think baptism is probably one of my favorite things, just because it's so powerful, and it's so humbling at the same time. I remember my first baptism. I was so nervous, and I can't even remember the child's name at this time. But you think you'd remember the first, but all I remember is when I'm going through the rite of the blessing of the holy water, and I just remember thinking, I'm blessing this water that's going to be poured over the baby's head, and they're going to enter into the family of God. And I just was like, even when I was baptizing in the name of the Father and Son, I was like, oh, I hope this works. I hope this takes, Lord, because that's the only thing I was thinking, and I did it all right, just so you know. But it was just like in the person of Christ, though. It just this humbling, like, who am I to be able to be in this position, to be able to do this? And so it's still a bit awesome in a way, in an awe-inspiring way to be able to do that. But and I've done committals and serving mass is so very special as well. And so just talking with parishioners as a deacon is just a little bit different, and I get to, and people will come up and start chatting, and if I wasn't a deacon, they would be like, ooh, who's that guy? but I'm a deacon, they'll come up and start chatting, and I really enjoy, the people, especially at St. Joan of Arc. It's just been wonderful. And I guess the other aspect of it is the brotherhood of being involved as clergy in the church. Just so the Chrism Mass, being able to go there with all the priests and all the deacons, and it's just to be even counted as one of them is just it's amazing. Brings tears to my eyes. So
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I guess it would be like resembles in a way the brotherhood that you could experience like in the Navy
Sure,
and the
sure. In a more of a spiritual way, yes.
right,
Mhm.
different.
Yeah, it's a lot different because, even in my cohort, we're all dispersed. We were
Mhm.
good friends, and we get to see each other every now and again, but for classes and for different diocesan events. But yeah, it's a lot different. It's more of a spiritual brotherhood, but it's still just as cool.
Nice. Well, one of the things that you have been doing for a long time that is not as new as the diaconate is the fish fry at
Yes.
St. Joan of Arc. And
God bless you for that.
God bless you for that. Do you have any restaurant managing experience that we don't know of?
No, I was thrown into this when I got hired. I'd never even been to this fish fry. And
Really?
as you guys know, it's quite the
It's a hit. It's the best fish fry.
But it's such a process.
Oh yeah,
But
totally.
just so the guys that are the people that are listening, it's open for 3 hours
Yes.
on every Friday in Lent, and you serve how many? Well, not you, but the church serves how many plates?
Yeah. So it varies obviously from week to week and year to year, but on average, it's anywhere from like 650 to 700
Mhm.
plates in 3 hours.
700 plates
Yeah.
in 3 hours.
Now you have to have a pretty good process in order to be able to do that. I mean,
Mhm.
if you don't, there's no way that happens.
Yeah.
But to be able, so the process that I took over was already there. Now I made some tweaks to kind of make it a little bit more
Efficient or
more efficient, and it made more sense. But very little. But the process is there, and it's set up right. So so I didn't really tweak too much of the process because it was a fine oiled machine, and so but it has to be. And if
Yeah.
it doesn't, then things break down.
Mhm.
But God willing, it'll be a success, and hopefully people come back. I think we're all ready for that, and so we're looking forward to it. So, but it's also a very stewardship kind of thing,
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and just to lead that in, and also the diacon, if we want to get really fancy and couple them all in together. But it is really a sacrament of service. It's really this sacrifice of and serving people. And we talk about evangelizing people, and the Lord asks us to go, and after every mass we're
sent.
we were sent to go. But it dawned on me that there's 650, 700 people coming to us.
Yeah.
So why not
Talk about hospitality, right?
Yes. So why not give them a piece of the Lord through stewardship, through the hospitality, through serving them, making them feel like this is not just a meal. This is an experience, and one that I really enjoy. So to be able to serve that many people and have them have a really good experience, it's pretty amazing. So
How many volunteers do you usually have?
and again, that depends, but generally speaking, it's anywhere from 50 to 75, I'd say, volunteers. There's some areas that have a couple shifts, but yeah, people just kind of come out and they have their thing.
Yeah.
And the Knights do our cooking for us, and they do their thing, and so yeah, it's they don't show up. We don't do a very good job.
Yeah, we don't eat.
But for the most part, people show up because they, everybody I think enjoys themselves, and so that's part of the fun is to be able to come and my job is to make them feel like when people, I always say this, when people show up, they're already there.
Right.
But I need to wine and dine them, make them have a good time because I'm working on them so that they'll come back next week.
I mean,
Whether they're servers or whether they eat, we already have them, so let's not ignore them. Let's just give them a piece of the Lord. Let's give them a good time. They're on holy ground. Some of these people come from all over the place. They're not just parishioners. They come from everywhere. I hear stories all the time of people like, oh, I came here for spring training and I drove by and saw a fish fry, and I remember my fish fry in my childhood. So they'd pull in and I would chat with him, and he's like, this is amazing. I haven't been on church grounds for, since he was a little kid, but we have them there. And
it's like
treat
stay
them
for
right.
Stations of the Cross. Right?
Yes. Tour the church. And I've done that too. It's like
the saddest look I've ever seen on a man's face.
Oh,
and
you're
I've
gonna tell
told
the
this
story?
story on the podcast before. the saddest face I've ever seen on a man was we went to confession one day on the last Saturday before Holy Week, because that's the last Friday you have it, right? Usually.
Before Palm Sunday.
Correct. So we went to confession on Saturday, and a guy drove up, and it was an empty parking lot on a Saturday at 3:00. So the guy drives up, and we're walking out of confession, and he's like, "Hey," he calls me over to his truck. He's like, "I was told that there's a fish fry here that I was told is like the best fish fry in Phoenix," and like.
Not exaggerating, his words.
I'm not making it up. That's what he said that he heard from somewhere. And I'm like, you are not mistaken on one of those things. I didn't say it like that. I didn't say it like that. But I was like, yeah, it's usually here on Fridays, but yesterday was the last one of the season. And he's like, okay, so when does it kick back up again? And it's like, next year, dude. Next year. You're like a day late.
For the last one of the year.
That's too bad.
So the guy was like, do you know of any other one? I think he would have had a hankering for fried fish, obviously.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. Try St. Joe's or something. I don't know if they're going to have it.
Even I don't think they would have it.
Yeah, it was a Saturday.
Long John Silver's or something like that. It's like, sorry, dude. Good
Red
luck next year. Red Lobster. There we go. Those cheesy biscuits, man. Maybe that would be like a good addition to the. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't change anything.
It ain't broke.
It ain't broke. Don't fix it.
Yeah, no, the menu is incredible. I think there's like maybe like what 4 or 6 different options.
Yeah, we have like three plates and then like a combo plate. Mm-hmm. So we'll have
love the simplicity of it.
Yeah, baked cod platter, if you will. Fried flounder and fried shrimp, and so. We have a little healthier option. We have baked cod. It's got a little breading on it, but it's very good.
Rice.
Rice, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rice.
Instead of the baked potato or the fries. The fries are fantastic. Just go
good.
Fish and chips, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Have one meal a day. Make it.
That's what I do.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
That's what I do. We usually fast on Fridays and we save it up, and then we feel guilty afterward, like a good Catholic should.
Was having labor breathing, trying to kneel in Stations of the Cross, like, I should have had the rice, man.
Exactly.
Those fries.
You're so hungry, and it's a lot of portions too. It's pretty.
It's
good.
really generous portion.
Pretty good deal for the money.
Pretty generous portion, and I love the community aspect too, because you just come and you're. Sometimes we neglect to reach out, and we come to mass and we go through the motions and. We don't meet other people in our congregation, and this is definitely that opportunity to just like reach out and meet people and sit down with somebody you don't talk to regularly, right?
Yeah, and we've really taken that to heart. And Pam, again, in her great wisdom, she kind of developed a situation where she was the hostess, and people come in, and typically they can go find their own table. And I tell people, like, if we have inside, we have 29 tables, and if 29 couples come in, every table is going to be taken. And so what we try to do is just try to get people to go sit with other people, and so she always asks them, you don't mind sitting with this other nice couple at table 40 or table 20, and of course they're going to go, oh, no, that's fine. And so they end up sitting with another couple. And so 2 things. We're evangelizing in a way. We're getting communities together, and at the same time, we're freeing up tables for big families. That, Walter wants to bring 6, or even if because we have families that bring mom and dad and all that kind of stuff. So we reserve the bigger tables or tables for larger families. So it's practical, and it's also spiritual in a lot of ways. So those are simple things we can do that just really binds the community. They make new friends, and who knows. From there, the Lord takes over from there.
I would tell Pam, is there fried fish at the table that you're going to sit me with this other couple? Yes. Okay, I can sit whatever you want me.
As long as I get my food.
Yeah. So this episode is coming out on March 8th. People can still go on March 11th, the 18th, 25th. Even though it's a solemnity, though, you can still eat fish.
Fish is still better than beef. Because you can have beef any day.
That's true. You cannot have the...
That's right.
the fish fry
or the experience.
Yeah.
or the experience. So
You should come anyway.
April 1st and April 8th, St. Joan of Arc Parish, 38th Street and Greenway. Fridays from 4
to 7
stations of the cross.
at 7.
Right after that.
You'll probably see us there pretty regularly. So
Yeah. We also have a raffle too. We give away money.
the raffle.
We give away
yes.
money too, so you can get tickets, and we have T-shirts too. We sell T-shirts.
Oh, that's right. You introduced the T-shirts like
Yeah.
that.
A couple of years
Long
ago,
ago.
yeah. And it says, and again, it's with the evangelization spin on it. I wanted something that you could wear out that's a starter, conversation starter. So I made this T-shirt that says, "I eat fish on Fridays."
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's it.
what
Simple.
does that mean?
I love that simplicity.
what
It's
is- what
like
is-
your menu.
yeah, it's
Simple, and it just sparks up a conversation.
Yeah, what does
you
that
know?
mean? Well, let me tell you what that means.
Yeah.
And
Come
it's just
come and see.
yes, come and
Come and
see.
see.
Exactly.
Taste the fish.
Yeah.
Taste and see.
Beautiful. Don't miss it. And if you're listening, sad guy that missed it that time,
Oh, I wish you would have
yes.
yeah, I wish I
take
would
his
have.
number,
Yeah, I know.
text him, something
Yeah.
like that.
Don't miss it this year.
Yeah.
You will not regret it.
Yeah. And there's so many stories of people from the coming. There was the Jewish community that came in years ago that would come, and they loved it and loved it. And then they started having it their own, so they stopped coming. But yeah, you just never know who shows up, you know. So
And you get the kids with the desserts, and I'm like, don't do this to me.
I know. Bring
Yeah.
cash, guys. Bring cash.
yeah, you need a little bit of cash. That's a donation for that. Those are ministries in the church that kind of get the benefit of that. But at the same time, it's just, I don't know how these little kids have that that Oliver face.
Yeah,
And they
you
have,
just gotta
I don't know
buy
how
it.
they teach all these little kids with this little English accent, you know.
Hello, sir.
A little,
Would you like a pastry, sir?
a little money for the pastry? It's just,
Would you like a tart, sir?
I'm like, all the kids they just rake it in, man. They
I
walk
know.
away going,
Here,
Exactly.
here's the 20.
yeah. I
Give
don't
me
know
a
how they
tray.
do it, but they're good. I think your
that's
kids
funny.
were
They did
in
for a
on
little
that
bit.
for a while.
Yeah, they did for a little
bat
bit.
their eyes.
They can get away with murder. Closing comments.
I'm good.
You're good?
Don't miss this fish fry. And Andy, again, Deacon Andy, we are very grateful for your apostolate, for your friendship, and obviously your journey in the diaconate is nothing but good news for anybody that knows you. And we're very fortunate to have you on the podcast, man. And hopefully it's not the last time.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Oh, you're good,
Oh, my
man.
goodness.
Kind of nervous.
Good.
You guys are intimidating.
Oh, come on.
It's the beard.
It's the beards. Yeah. So I can join you. But thank you. It's a great opportunity to share not only, how the diaconate works and kind of what it is, but also stewardship and the fish fry. So thank you for that opportunity.
You're
Beautiful.
welcome. Thank you for being here. And we want to thank you for listening to this episode of Barbatus Catholic Podcast, a show where two Mexican dads talk about faith, life, and culture. If you like the podcast or got something out of this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Subscribe, like, comment, rate, and review if you haven't. And if you don't like the podcast, well, just keep it to yourself and let others make their own mistakes. Go to direct.me/Barbatus to check out the show notes, social media, how to support the podcast, if the spirit moves you, and more. And bless us, Casey.
Pray for us.
Until the next time.